our youngest speaker. Can you follow our not youngest speaker? Love to hear what you have to say. And I know you're from Florida and are passionate about engineering and biology and just exploring the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. So my name is Julian, and I'm a current sophomore at MIT studying bioengineering. And today I kind of want to give you a bit of background about that story, just really being able to kind of explain how I got to where I am and just kind of what a bioengineering, what typically like the projects we'll work on and the typical projects that I'm even doing in my own life. So let me see if I share my screen right here. So Safari. Present. Okay. So all right, so immunology from cancer to COVID-19. So I want to start off with a little bit of some background. So just a little bit about me. So I'm a current sophomore from Miami, Florida. And I remember when I was in high school, not too long ago, when I was originally thinking about what I really was curious and interested in, I was really more drawn to biology. Coming from Florida, there's a lot of like the diversity that you might even encounter in Boston, where here in Florida, you have the Everglades nearby, you have the Biscayne National Reefs, you have the Keys, where a lot of this diversity and understanding life was really just around me. And I really enjoyed learning about it through my own classes. And as I came to MIT, I realized I kind of wanted to develop it a little further and really kind of integrate it more with the engineering side. So here I was able to kind of look at it through bioengineering, also known as Course 20, and really understand how we can apply a lot of the concepts of the basics of biology and understanding how we can apply engineering principles to it. So here are some pictures I included here. So on the top right, you have like some of my graduation, MIT, and then on the side, I'm also a rower here. Throughout high school, I was rowing, and also here at MIT. So it's just one of those experiences that I think has really helped me, especially in working with other people and collaborating, which I found really important, especially in engineering and even in school. So with that, I want to start off with talking about biological engineering. So a lot of what this field compromises is really understanding the basis of biology, which some of you guys might have already taken. And that's where you really start getting to learn about what does this field have to offer. So you might be able, in a typical class, you might learn about genetics, you might be learning about your own ecology, cells, cancer. And a lot of these were able to really draw to me. But what I was really interested in learning a little more is how we can use these principles and apply it with the methods. So that's what we see in this chart right here to the right. So here we're able to look at different methods, whether we're doing analysis, design, synthesis, we're able to understand and think, for instance, like a medication, where if you have a certain illness, a lot of times a medication might help in allowing your immune system to really activate against it and really be able to promote your own health and safety. So that's one way that bioengineering is able to use this, and we're able to apply it to different fields, whether it be in medicine, engineering, energy, or nutrition. And that's what I was really interested in. So when we look at those terms of impact, I think there's a lot of ways you can branch off into it. And one of the key things I became more interested was looking at the health and medicine aspects of it, which a lot of times I think is very common that we think typically of like our doctors and nurses, but it's really a little bit broader. We can think about the public health, the engineering aspects, where a lot of it isn't just when you break a bone, when you go to the doctor. A lot of it comes from before, about understanding the underlying questions about why do we break bones, understanding what precautions we can take to prevent this, and how does that relate to immunology. So that's where it leads me here. So over this past summer, I was really curious, especially in learning a little bit more about how public health and engineering really intertwine. And you guys probably were all very like, you guys were able to see a lot of news about COVID-19 and seeing how it affects with public health. So some of the main things that we've been able to see is it's not necessarily the sole cause. Like when we look at COVID-19, for instance, we're not necessarily just looking at how we can cure COVID-19, but a lot of the prevention and who's getting affected and why. And that's what I was able to really look at over the past summer. So I think with bioengineering, one of my first like introductions to it was really through this summer. I was able to work with the Center for Disease Control and really get to understand how we're able to actually look at public health. So what I was able to do is actually look at COVID-19 cases and really look at different aspects of the United States. So based on today, these are the numbers that we have of COVID-19 cases within our country today. But a lot of times what is really difficult to do is really understand how do these numbers break down, whether it breaks down into different populations, races, ages, because based on different people, you might have different age groups being affected more, different races or different genders. And that's what I was able to do over the CDC is really understand how we can integrate data and these sources of information and understanding how COVID-19 is able to actually be transmitted and how we can allocate better resources. And here on my next slide, what you can see is what we're able to do with bioengineering is understand these aspects of health and medicine. So on the left is a simple map of the United States. And rather than just looking at COVID-19 from a general federal way, which is just looking at the whole country, is we're really able to break it down into different compartments and look at aspects of, let's say, the Southeast, the West, the North. And that's where you see the different color blocks kind of come into play. Because when we're able to really break down and look at these different regions, we're able to see what groups and how do we categorize them. And I think like as a high school student and even as a college student, what this experience really showed is that sometimes when like COVID-19, I think a lot of times you'll be faced with encounters that you might not have had experience with. And it's really just about learning how you can look for solutions and different key aspects of what you can do to really find solutions for it. So while a lot of people were still learning about COVID-19, this was going on during, when I was working on this was during last May. So pretty early on, I think we were able to see how we were first able to really just approach it and just look at it from step-by-step basis and really just break it down as we moved on throughout the summer. And I think that's one of the things as a scientist, not just limited to bioengineering, but as you look at different scientific fields like we've seen today, whether it be through coding or through aeronautics, we're able to look at an issue that we might have not encountered, but we're able to apply different previous problems, whether we've looked at different epidemiology, different diseases, and see how we can apply it within our new scenarios. And that's what I was able to do here. So here on the right was something called a requisition. So a lot of times what we would have is a lot of information based on either different states. So depending on how many cases they would get per day. And then we would also have information based on which kinds of like groups might have needed the most. So we were able to look at people who were actually available. So epidemiologists, contact tracers, for instance. And that way we would be able to follow up with COVID-19 and really get to understand the whole aspects of it from a better hands-on approach. And by understanding these two sides, we're able to see how can we better mediate different regions throughout the country. So let's say if we saw a certain region might have needed a little more assistance or they were having higher hotspots, we were able to understand what resources were available and how could we provide them with more PPE, more professionals, more advice in better approaching this. And that's one way that we were able to really look at it and really understand COVID-19 just from in terms of the overall like disease aspects, but also looking at it in public health where we see that all people might have different rates and how we can best serve all individuals throughout the country, regardless of which part they're from and varying rates. So in addition to that, I think outside of COVID-19, one of the main projects that I've been able to work on throughout my actual career at MIT, so was really working at a research lab known as the Springer Lab, where we've been able to look at immunology in terms of cancer. So when we look at cancer, I think there's several ways that we can really address cancer, whether you're looking at it from a chemical analysis and looking at how molecules interact with each other. And another way you might look at it is you can look at it throughout all aspects, whether you want to look at the economics of cancer, science. And the way I really was interested in it was I really enjoyed looking at the biology and really understanding other aspects of how cancer is able to relatively spread. So here what you're able to see are different cells within an actual like population. And what we see is how those cells move. And the importance of this is initially when you get these are simply microscopes where you're able to look at a plate and really understand how cancer cells are moving within a plate, just essentially just taking like a video of it. And what you're able to do is really use computers to really understand how are these cells moving, and understanding different cell cultures and understanding the different motility rates to see how different cancers or different cells might respond depending on the cancer type. And this is the aspects I've really enjoyed about bioengineering, is that as you get to learn about it, you get to apply different aspects and really get to tailor it to your interests. And I think we've seen that with other of our speakers here. And as Don was able to say, it's really just creating your own adventure in a sense, where you're able to really find your own interests. And as you continue to work on these projects, you get to slowly find what interests you really enjoy and how you can apply it a little more. Because I remember when I first started this, I think a lot of this was very new and very, very exciting just to see how much of, for instance, cancer there is to know, whether you're looking at it just in terms of the science or you're looking at it in terms of any field. But as you get to learn more about it, you get to specialize and really understand what aspects of it do you want to learn further and how you can apply it. And I think as a bioengineering, like we saw in the very first slide, there's a lot of ways you can branch off. You can use those skills as an engineer to really understand the challenges, understand those problem solving skills, whether you want to use them in a sense of medicine or you want to use them in terms of immunology, environment. And by understanding those key skills, I think it's very useful in how we can move forward and really be able to apply it to situations when at the moment we have COVID-19, but even as we move forward, there might be other challenges that we encounter more in the future. So this is a general basis of what it's like as moving forward when you're thinking about like what majors you guys might want to be choosing, or even in terms of learning more about bioengineering. So I just want to give a special thank you for everyone for having me here. And if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to put them in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. And I think it's fitting that a sophomore's talking to sophomores. Thank you for being our closer. So Corey's going to play us out. I want to thank Jen Spencer. Originally, this was going to be just for your class, and then it was going to be for the grade. And then Ed said, why don't we make this school-wide? We're recording these. These will be made available to everyone. You know, we had 14 speakers from Megan kicking us off, to Elliot, who runs a lab at University of Michigan on bionics, to Linnell talking about what it's like being a PhD student doing physics and biology at the same time, to Tyler DeWitt, who is doing extraordinary things in making science accessible in the YouTube market. Some of you may want to be YouTubers like him. And then the four from JPL, all of them talking about Mars. And then the chair of the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Clemson, Atul and his teammate. And then you got the chemical engineering guy talking about how to save the planet. And then our London friend who's still on, Kayun, talking about some parts of the economy. And then Don, so wonderful to hear, you know, the inside story of the Apollo mission. And then again, ending with Julian. Megan, before Corey plays us out, anything you want to say in closing? She's been also, and thank you for annotating the talks. Thank you for annotating the talks along with everyone.
Just adding links, you know, here and there. And I just, students, it's been a long morning. So I just applauding you for hanging in for whatever portion you joined. And I know, John, you noted some kids, you know, maybe working or at sports or doing other things and they'll catch it on video. But, you know, everybody is, this is a team sport and we all work together. And the most important thing we can do is to make sure people feel like they belong and that you're welcome. And anytime you ever feel nervous or something, just ask any of us out here, your teammates, your classmates, because the most important thing is the more of us who can work on these kinds of things, the more we'll see, the more we'll do together, and the more we'll solve or discover. So thank you all.
Great, well put. And Jen and Ed, before Corey plays, anything you want to say after Madam CTO?
Just thank you so much to all the speakers who took your time this morning to really kind of inspire all of the high school kids. It means a lot to them. Even though their cameras aren't on, they're messaging us through the chat and letting us know all the fun things that they have heard and questions that they have. So thank you all so much for spending time with us this morning.
And thank you, John. None of this would have been possible without you. I mean, you know, you're the brains behind it and the brawn. You got it all done. So I really appreciate it.
Great. Tom Brady of accordion, can you play us out?
Yes, John is the great connector. He just seems to know everybody from every field around the world. With the JPL people and of course, Don, wow, what an honor to be on with Don. I thought, well, you already talked about Star Trek, so I guess I'll do a little bit of a medley of Star Wars to end. Why not? Haven't done this in forever. Thank you, guys. And thank you, John.
Brilliant. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.